What's up, YouTube? Grab a pint if you drink beer or an alcoholic beverage of choice, or don't if you're a person who doesn't drink alcohol or whatever. But yeah, we're 21 now. 21, which in the US means we can have ourselves some delicious mead as we play through this. It is wonderful to have you here for part 21. Part 20 was a doozy. I assume at this point, if you've made it this far, you've been enjoying all of the analysis, which I am honored to bring to you. I hope it's been helpful or meaningful in some way. It's been absolutely wonderful to do this playthrough. I've enjoyed it so much. Please make sure you hit that like button. Make sure that you comment down below if you feel so inclined. Share my stuff with people. That helps a lot with supporting the channel and getting it out there that I exist. And yeah, follow all the links down in the description. Would love to see you in other spaces. All right, so let's make it happen. We're off to go fulfill a stupid plan. We're off to go do what the Norns pretty much predicted we're going to do because look how consistent we are. All right. Everybody wave bye-bye to the horsey. Bye-bye. All right. One bone I have to pick with the Norns that I've been chewing on. They say they don't predict, they just know what choices Kratos would make, but they were the ones to bring up Heimdall. Would Kratos even know who Heimdall was without them? Probably. I think Heimdall is pretty well known because he's in possession of Gjallarhorn. I mean, to mix your comment with Dante's, like, I do agree that the Norns are... I don't really know what word to use to describe it, but they know that giving the information that's sought after is going to influence people to think and act in certain ways, and they give it anyway, which I suppose is still their choice, because ultimately information is information, but what we do with it is what matters more. So it's a bit tricky because they can certainly give the info, but it's also very important that you listen to how they give the info. They said that Heimdall intends to kill Atreus, not that he will. And that language is super important. And they sort of play on people's emotional drives and the trains of thought that they find themselves barreling forward on. But yeah, I mean, they're influencing people by the information they give, and also Kratos sought them out. So it's a very interesting thing.
We're all perfectly comfortable plotting an assassination, and I, for one, am a mite rusty at that measure. We've got no way to reach Heimdall, and no way to kill him if we did.
I have killed gods greater than him.
I don't doubt that, brother, but it's hardly my point.
What is your point, then? Share your point. Mimir, share your point. He talks when he's not supposed to, and he doesn't talk when he is supposed to. Brother. Like, share.
Look, over there.
Yes, a chest.
Kratos, I see something. Up there.
Now we're back at the... Okay, so we're back at the entrance. Because we went up there already, and that's where we fought the person. Okay, cool. Okay. My guess is that everybody now... I mean, I think this is pretty understandable. Maybe it's even stating the obvious, but everybody here is a bit on edge. Because that conversation with the Norns rocked everybody a bit. And I think there's reason for that beyond just the information that they shared. I think to an extent, the reason that everybody was rocked so hard by what the Norns had to say is because of their reputation. Like, they're not just random folks that think they know what the future has in store. Like, their reputation is that they have this information and they're hard to get to, and so there's all this cost sunk. So what they have to say carries a lot of weight. And what they just proposed, despite looking like a bunch of known variables that we're not gonna like, is actually a bunch of unknown variables. Like, they injected anxiety. Again, they say Heimdall intends to kill Atreus, but that doesn't actually give us much information at all. It doesn't tell us why. It doesn't tell us how. It doesn't tell us when. It doesn't tell us where. It doesn't tell us for what reason. Like, we get no information from them about that intention. So what happens? Everybody here, Kratos, Freya, and Mimir, starts to fill those blanks in with what ifs and a bunch of information that is really extrapolated from inductive reasoning rather than what they know of the situation, which I think is why they're having that conversation while they're climbing the wall. Like, even if we do plan to plot an assassination, how do we do it? We don't know what we're working with. We don't know where it's going to happen. We have no information. So even though it seems like we have information, we don't really have information. So everybody's on edge right now because the only constant here that everybody knows and is on the same page with is they want to save Atreus, which presupposes that Atreus needs saving, that Atreus needs protecting. And that's part of the problem too, is this is an extension of the way in which these adults have to an extent misread Atreus. So the layers on this of how this creates all of this complexity is really strong because we don't actually know anything. And that's part of the problem. This should be a moment where we say, let's try to get more info. Let's try to really evaluate what's going on here. Let's figure out what the Norns said in context. Let's figure out what choices we want to make. How do we want to frame this? What is the best idea? But because we're so emotionally drawn to the fact that somehow Atreus is reckless and thus is in danger, which again, he's by Odin, so he very well could be. I don't disagree that being in the presence of Odin is bad for Atreus. It's still very short-sighted the way that this is being handled, and everybody's operating on anxiety related to the unknowns of this, not the information they were given. It's the information they weren't given that's creating all these problems. I hope that makes sense. Like, whenever you have information, also be mindful of the information you don't have and then how you're trying to gather that information. Because if you start just gathering that information inductively, you're probably going to have a problem. I don't know, Parental. That's hard for me to say. You think the Norns would have told them why or when if they'd asked? I don't know, but they didn't ask. So I don't have that information. And whether I think they would or wouldn't have doesn't really matter because they didn't ask.
Look, I think we're missing the Norns' message here. We've all got our tendencies, and yours is to run headlong into danger to protect the ones you love.
I do not intend to change. Not about that.
Why should you? Apparently my tendency is to kill the ones I love.
Freya,
I don't need you to comfort me. Either of you.
Their accusation was cruel. None of us believe.
The truth can be a cruel thing. Anyone care to argue with that?
no. But Baldur's fate had many causes. Prophecy among them.
How do you mean, brother?
There are many tales in my homeland of those who fulfilled prophecy by attempting to avoid it. So it was when Freya tried to protect Baldur. And so it was when I accused my son of going to Asgard.
Then we agree. It'd be foolish to go after Heimdall.
No. If Heimdall must die for Atreus to live, then Heimdall must die.
How can you say that, knowing what you know?
Because if Heimdall is a threat to my son, I must act. It is my...
Your nature. Well played, Norns.
Oh God, man. I don't, this, buckle up. Oh, I don't even know where to start with this one. Okay. Oh God. Okay. I'm gonna start with the easy layer, and then we're gonna go a little bit deeper. Kratos doesn't have to do any of this. And as we have discussed at various points in almost every playthrough that I have done, people deferring choice, which we indicate through language as won't or will, over to can or cannot, is a problem. When Kratos says things like, I have to do it, if Atreus is in trouble and Heimdall is the one who will kill him, then I have to go and kill Heimdall. No, you don't. No, you don't. And I know that there are parents that are watching this video, either live or on VOD, that are like, oh, there's no choice there. You absolutely have to go protect your child. No, you don't. Now, is that the more like ideal response as we have defined ideal parental responses? Yes, to protect your children no matter what. Yes. Right? Like, I'm not saying let your kid get hit by a train. However, you stopping your child from getting hit by a train or killed by Heimdall in this case is still a choice. You could choose to leave your child on the tracks. Is that a great decision? Probably not. Is it a great decision for Kratos to go after Heimdall? Probably not. But it is a choice. So when people say they can't or they have to, when they really mean they won't and they are choosing to, they are deferring accountability to circumstance and outside factors rather than taking responsibility for their behavioral actions. And in general, I am always a proponent of taking responsibility for all of the choices you make. The amount of time we spend talking about how we don't have choice, because there are many things we cannot control, because there are many things we cannot control. One of the very few things you can control are your choices. So you got to take responsibility. Now, that said, if Kratos is like, and it sounds like he kind of is, if Kratos is like, you know what? I don't give a shit. I don't care what the Norns said. I don't care. I'm choosing to do this. He didn't say that. If that's what he means, then he should say that. I am still going to choose to go after Heimdall, even though the Norns said what they said, because that is what I want to do. Cool, man. You take responsibility for that decision. Mimir doesn't have much of a say in this because he's attached to Kratos' ass. He could say, I don't want to go with you. Freya certainly could say, I'm not in. I'm not in, dude. You want to go do that, you're on your own. I can't endorse that decision, or I'm not going to endorse that decision. They're certainly allowed to do that. But there is choice here at every given point. We chose to go to the Norns. We're choosing to respond to the information that they did and did not give us. Choice is part of the gig here. And what I really love about how Mimir is talking about this is that Mimir is essentially saying that we have a choice here, guys. Change happens through a series of choices. And if we're going to change this, but here's the problem. All right, so here's point number 2. Cost sunk and emotional sink can create real problems when people have already made a decision, because what we're looking for here, or what we're looking at here, is essentially a priori confirmation bias. So Kratos very conveniently has decided here that prophecy is at play. He's using information that supports a decision that he's already made. He is choosing to go after Heimdall. And so what he's going to do is bias himself and others into finding information that supports that decision. If this was up in the air and he wasn't sure, we might try to look for more well-rounded information. But he is so cost-sunk into this journey. He is so cost-sunk into his identity as a man who protects his children and who has failed to do so in the past and is never going to fail to do that again. He is so sunk into that he is now using that kind of information to support his decision to go do this. And I am not an advocate for constantly second-guessing yourself. I think that can cause people to go absolutely batty. But I also think that we should always be mindful of confirmation bias, because when we make certain decisions, both internally and externally, we often are going to look for information that validates and supports that decision, because it's less likely to bring about shame. It's less likely to have us cast out of the group, because if we make a decision that we perceive to be the wrong one based on information, then there's generally worry that we're going to lose people because they're going to judge that decision, et cetera, et cetera. So there's real reason why we tend to do this and confirmation bias ourselves. But the expectation already is that Kratos is going to go kill Heimdall. And so there's not really anything that's going to talk him off of that. So he's just going to continue to build a case, which in this position is not particularly helpful, because when Mimir brings contradictory information or tries to inject some dissonance here, Kratos is not having it. He's just straight up like, shut it down, because he's already made his decision. So if you're Mimir and Freya here, you now have to decide what you're going to do based on the fact that Kratos has made it very clear what he's going to do. Are you going to support him? Are you going to choose to support him? Or are you going to choose to bail? Or try to stop him even? It's hard to know. Nobody knows what the right decision is here. That's the trick. Nobody knows what the right decision is. So you start having to use what information you have and your intuition and your values and your moral code and all these other things to try to make that decision. And so Kratos is drawing upon self-image. He's drawing upon his narrative to make a decision about what he's going to do. I'm making this decision because I am a protector of my family. And this decision is in line with that role and identity that I have ascribed to myself. That's what he's doing here. What would be the more sophisticated thing for Kratos to do here? The more sophisticated and I think developmentally appropriate thing for Kratos to do here would be to engage with what I started talking about last session, or last stream. Might as well be a session at this point. Which is, I am a protector of my family, but I am also a parent who is conscious of the development of my child from child to adult. I am a person who wants to facilitate my son's autonomy, and I want to facilitate him making big decisions that may or may not have certain consequences. If he goes with that I think it changes a little bit here. It gets him open to some of the other information here, which is that maybe Atreus has this. Maybe Atreus going to Asgard and doing what he's doing is bucking prophecy, because that's not what was expected. Like, maybe he's the one doing it. Maybe you don't always have to be the one that intervenes in order for people to be safe. And what's pretty wild here is arguably, like, some of Kratos' interventions in things are what have created the demise of his other family members. But he is so myopic in his view of seeing himself as needing to exert the influence he knows how to exert, and he's losing sight of the bigger picture, a bigger picture that Mimir is trying to make more present for both Kratos and Freya. And it's really, in a lot of ways, unfortunate here. This whole self-fulfilling prophecy dealio with Kratos, I mean, is really, like, it's a beautiful portrayal of how a lot of parents handle parenting their teenage children as they grow older and are capable of making bigger decisions, which is that they struggle to let go of the idea that they are the ones that are solely responsible for the well-being of their child. At some point, your child has to learn how to be responsible for their own well-being. Your child has to make bad decisions that lead to certain consequences so that they learn not to make those types of decisions anymore. Parents have a way harder time letting go of that. And this is what's happening with Kratos. He is seeing Atreus as a young child that he has to protect, not just for Atreus's well-being, but also for his internalized version of Faye, who he likely in mourning has promised, I will never let something happen to my son, to our son. So this is a legacy thing. This is something that he's playing out on behalf of his dead wife. There is so much going into this that is clouding Kratos' judgment of his son as an autonomous person who is moving toward adulthood at a very rapid rate. And if you're a parent that wants to facilitate that, you have to grieve that. It's part of, I think the teenage years for parents are a lot of grieving. It's a lot of grieving what you thought your kid was going to be. It's a lot of grieving your role. It's no longer does your kid need you to do all the things that you wrapped your entire identity around doing when they were a child. You all of a sudden are a separate person from them. What does that mean for you? A lot of parents lose themselves in parenting, and they get scared about what they're going to find, or they don't know what to look for in their sense of self once that parenting role is gone. And so I think Kratos is also having to wrestle with this. If Atreus doesn't need my help, then what does he need? Does it mean that he needs emotional support? I don't know how to do that. The only way I know how to show support is by blasting my way through all the realms. And if that's not the way that I exert influence and connect with my son and protect him, then what the hell does that mean? I mean, that's an existential question that so many people don't want to answer. And so what do? They lock into parenting mode and they make dumb decisions and they push their kids away and create problems because they think they need to be parent in a way that they conceptualized 10 years ago, instead of really paying attention to what the developmental needs of their kids are now. So there's so much being wrapped up in this that I think it's so rich in the types of dynamics that so many people struggle with. And even though this is, a fantasy world, this is very real in terms of what people struggle with when they watch their kids make decisions and when they know certain bad things can happen. Why is protecting Atreus from Heimdall more important than protecting him from Ragnarok? Because Ragnarok, in Kratos' mind, is seen as coming after Heimdall. So if I don't tackle Heimdall, then Ragnarok doesn't matter. I don't know. We'd have to ask that question to Kratos in order to get the specific answer to it, but it's really a bitch here having to deal with this because they're very short-sighted in it. Which goes to show that adults are just big kids. Adults still make choices based on inductive reasoning. Adults still make choices based upon emotional intensity. Like, I don't expect perfection from adults, but I will say from a Kratos and Atreus dynamic, this is harmful to that dynamic because Kratos has already decided what he hasn't said. Here's what Kratos should do, aside from what I just said, and then I'm going to start playing again. What Kratos should do is say, we're going to go to Asgard, and then I need to talk to my son, and I need to get information. I need to figure out what Atreus learned. I need to figure out what Odin's influence on him is. I need to figure out what Heimdall is like relative to him. And perhaps I'm even going to share with him that the Norns told me that Heimdall intends to kill you. And I'm going to problem solve that with him. That's the mature way that Kratos handles this. That's the way that is developmentally sound. Rather than I'm going to go in and do this on behalf of my son and protect him. It's not about Atreus anymore. It's about Kratos. It's about his identity. It's about what he needs. I need to protect my son. It's not about Atreus. It seems like it's about Atreus, but the rash decision shows us it's more about Kratos than it is about the broader context and what everybody here needs. That's the kind of shit we all have to be very careful of. And if there's anybody here that would be really good at saying to Kratos, dude, you got to be careful, it would be Freya. It'd be Freya. Saying like, hey man, look, I've been here and it sucked. But we got to be mindful here. We got to think bigger picture. And again, if Kratos says, nope, I'm not doing it, I'm choosing to go, regardless of what any of you say. Maybe she says, maybe Mimir says, Kratos, hand me over to Freya. I'm not going with you. You're doing this on your own, brother, because this isn't what I'm in for. It's a hard conversation to have. But the Norns cut deep into them. The Norns got them emotional, which is why they're making a rash decision here instead of thinking this through. Powerful shit. Oh. A lot of this game has been hard to watch. As much as I love the game, it's been hard. A lot of people making very rash decisions in the context of perceived danger. I would agree, actually. It does have similar bones to Last of Us 2. Like it's not a relentlessly like positive game. Like it's really a commentary on the inner demons a lot of us face. Threat perceived is a threat achieved. That is very true. Change here is hard.
Let us find a gateway. Return home. Consider our plans.
Listen, brother. Before you make any hasty decisions, why don't you blow off a little steam? I'm sure there was some loose end we meant to circle back to. Give your mind a little time to process everything.
I suspect there's unfinished business here at the lake, though I'm certainly happy to spend time somewhere other than Midgard.
It's your choice, brother.
So that feels like the game telling me that there's a point of no return.
Norns have any good news for you?
No.
Ah, maybe buying something expensive to take your mind off it?
Thanks for collecting that.
Yes, yes. Shop therapy.
Whatever you need.
Consumerism. Heals all wounds.
Always a joy to work on these.
Rod of deflection. What is? Wait. Oh, increases. Okay.
And for the Valkyrie Queen?
Um. Strength 43, strength 41. Hitting enemies with a runic attack or relic has a luck chance. Increases duration of all status effects applied to enemies.
Huh. That might be my best piece yet today.
Alright, so Gauntlets of Guiding Light, goodbye bye. For now.
Say one thing for Tyr. He's got taste.
Leviathan Axe.
Take care of your armor, and it'll take care of you.
Dante, I would consider that to be a spoiler, so please tread carefully with giving me information I don't ask for. Aggressive, thank you for the bit. Please err on the side of caution with that. Alright, amulet. Let's go. Vitality. Alfheim's virtue. Alfheim's fortune. Ooh, strength. See, I want stuff that gives me lots of strength. I just like being powerful. All right, so I don't think there's anything else that I can level up. I can level this up. Here we go. Okay. Cool. Who do you think has annoyed, confused you the most so far? I don't know really how to answer that question. I mean, everybody makes sense. I mean, Tyr's been acting a little bit weird, but I mean, it seems like he's been weird ever since Freya showed up, but I wouldn't call that, like, annoying. It's just something I have my eye on. All right, goals. I'm gonna go to the Raven place. I think we have like 1 or 2 chests that we can open.
Freya, you mentioned that Fimbulwinter had worn down some of Odin's curses, but you still needed help. Was it Sigrun who helped you recover your warrior spirit?
Is that how Odin liked to refer to the curse that kept me from defending myself?
Oh, I suppose that is where I heard it.
Would you like to know how that curse really worked? What it did to me? What it cost me to finally break it?
I'm no longer sure that I do.
That's correct.
Well, Sigrun must have helped find your Valkyrie wings. Were they hidden in the place I guessed?
They were not. But yes, she did. Argued all the while I should let my anger go, but helped me just the same.
Be mindful of self-indulgent questions veiled as curiosities about other people. My sense here with Mimir's line of questioning is that it's more about his love of Sigrun, not really about his curiosity about Freya's experience, which she pretty much calls him out on when she's like, do you really want to know this? If you have a certain agenda in your line of questioning, you should just be upfront about it. So, hey, Freya, do you mind if I ask you some questions about Sigrun? Because she's been on my mind a lot lately. Would help Freya have context for that conversation. But that's not what Mimir did. Mimir asked questions that seemed like he was interested in Freya's experience, but that's not what it was about. And it caused a bit of a rift there. So, word to the wise, be very, very careful about what statements your questions are making and the context in which you're asking them, and be mindful of the audience you're asking them to, and be upfront if there is something specific or there is a certain reason why you're asking the questions that you're asking, because it will help the people that you're engaging with have a better idea of where you're coming from. It was pretty brutal on Mimir's part. He's not tactful with how to interact with people. He's smart, but he's book smart. He's not really people smart. Boy, this must be a trip for Freya to come here.
What is this?
Ravens, the ones we've been destroying. Odin's little spies.
Yeah, I'm glad that she says something here.
New father, new mother, new fate to suffer.
Bracers of Raven Tears.
In death.
Oh, they're not even that good. They're cool looking. Whoa, is that a... Oh, okay. That's Kratos with her fist.
Until you freed us with your steel.
So destroying the ravens free their spirits somehow. Good to know.
Free.
Well, free of Odin's control anyway.
We told about
Those are so cool.
saw, empowered his lies. Good little ravens, good little spies.
Man, Odin sucks. Just, jeez. Alright. Got what we needed. Oh, I don't want to do this. It's just combat practice. I don't want to go to Muspelheim. Don't really have any interest in So let's go. Let's go to Sindri's house.
Now tell me of this power Heimdall wields. He sees the future.
More like he reads the person, sees their intention.
My intent will be to kill him. Knowing that will be no advantage.
Brother, this is no one to underestimate. Any move you make, he'll have seen it coming. If you must face him, we need something else. An edge. Humor me?
Very well. We will ask the dwarves.
Ah, the inevitable asking of the dwarves.
Oh man, I'm gonna feel real good if I was right. My sense is that we're gonna have to kill Heimdall with Gjallarhorn. Either Gjallarhorn or I don't know. It'd be pretty wild if we actually kill him with Gjallarhorn. It's a great rocket launcher. Wolfpack rounds are just gonna eviscerate him.
Could I have a moment of your time?
You sure can.
Oh dear, what's to be done?
What is it you want?
It has come to my attention that Nithog has been slain, and as a result, her offspring have been let loose into the Nine Realms.
What of it?
Unfortunately, without a proper role model to supervise them, the little rascals are certain to fall to mischief. In time, said mischief could culminate in nothing less than their devouring of the Nine Realms entirely. In order to avoid such a grisly fate, I'd like you to bring the Lindworms to me. I believe I can act as a satisfactory paternal figure in their upbringing. You'll find the specimens gnawing on tears throughout the realms. Use this device to safely store them, bring them back to me, and I promise I'll make it worth your while.
You mean to say you'd raise them by yourself?
Indeed. I have no small experience managing extreme personalities. Compared to wrestling with my emotions in the most literal of senses, I dare say raising a handful of Lindworms will be a walk in the park. All that said, I'm happy to discuss anything else on your mind. Anyhow, was there something else you wish to talk about?
About Nithog. You should know. We had no choice. It was
Yes, you did.
Odin's doing.
Oh, I am very well aware indeed of the alleged All-Father's role in this tragedy. Sadly, there's no expecting him to clean up after himself. Not all gods showed the interest that you do in righting past wrongs. I do hope you're able to locate those Lindworms. Good luck to you.
Oh, so Ratatosker.
Should I have anything else for you, you'll be the first to know. Perhaps there was some confusion. This is for calling me out here, not for when I am here.
Sorry, I forgot. It's been a while. Sorry. 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 Well, let's go get those. Yeah, I'm just testing. That's all. Actually, they will continue to chew holes between the realms. The mess is our creation. We must set this right. Capture the Lindworms. Now, I would love to do this. Ratatoskers Discord notifications. All right, we're going to ask the dwarves. Let's talk to the dwarves, and then we'll make a decision about what we're going to do.
You're back. They're back.
Simmer down. I see them.
Tyr!
I have news.
Oh, did the Norns tell you how to get Atreus back? Do we have a plan?
The Norns say Atreus will be killed by Heimdall. The plan is to kill Heimdall first.
Oh, wow. Okay, Heimdall. Let's see. Never loses, sees everything coming, unpopular at parties. This won't be easy.
Whatever his advantages, I will overwhelm him with my own.
That's the idea. You got...
Who does Kratos sound like right now? He sounds exactly like Atreus. This is the exact shit that he gets pissed at Atreus about. You wonder where Atreus learns it. This is literally the exact same behaviors that we saw from Atreus. And it really, I think, gives us some great insight into why Atreus responds with such stubbornness. It's because that's how his father is. Really, the only way you can ever combat stubbornness is with more stubbornness. Like, the only way that you can get Kratos really to see reason or to, like, come off it is to strong arm him. And it's hard to strong arm him. And so Atreus has watched as Kratos basically sets a goal, makes a decision, and blasts forward with it. And because Atreus admires his father's strength and his resolve and what he does with the world, he picked up that that's how he has to be, not only in response to his father, but that's how he has to be in order to navigate the world and be powerful within it. I mean, it's amazing. He is literally, you could take Kratos out of this scene and put Atreus in, and we would be like, yep, that's like Atreus. Like, Kratos is being as impulsive as his son. And the craziest part about this is his entire conviction is predicated on a change of language. Miss me with language isn't important. Language is so important because if he looks at intends versus will, it potentially changes everything. But he's so scared that he has switched it from intends to will, and we're seeing him just go ham on this idea that he has to go kill Heimdall. There's no talking him out of it. Children learn from what they watch. They do not learn from what they hear. When you are a parent, you have to be mindful of what your children are bearing witness to in basically every possible way you show up in a given context, because they are going to pick it up from you. And they're also going to respond to it in certain ways that they learn are going to work. What's the easiest way to get somebody who's incredibly stubborn to notice? Either bail or fight back. There's no nuance in what Kratos is talking about right now. Atreus' behaviors make so much sense. But I really hope there are other people that were listening to that conversation. You're like, Jesus, he sounds like Atreus, because this is exactly what he got pissed at Atreus for. Flash your biddies. Thank you for gifting that sub.
To overpopulate his senses, see? And I got just the thing in mind to help you do it. Sindri, go get Dropnir.
Dropnir? But we need it. Our supplies.
Oh, we got plenty. And to spare.
Even if we did, Dropnir's no weapon. Why would a... Oh. You mean we combine it with...
That's right.
And then when he... It'll go... Damn you, that's brilliant. Very well. I suppose there's nothing to do, but... Go fetch Dropnir.
Okay. Where is it?
Dropnir. I bloody knew these two had nicked it. And Odin blamed me for it disappearing.
They stole Dropnir.
Oh,
We
hi.
didn't steal nothing. We just ungifted what never should have been gifted in the first place.
How will it help me kill Heimdall?
Never you mind all that. It's a fucking surprise. We're artistes.
But to even store Dropnir, you'd need...
You were saying?
So now you intend
intend to kill Heimdall. Violence cannot prevent violence, Kratos. I truly thought you understood that.
No matter what you thought I understood, my son is in danger. I will not allow harm to come to him.
Oh, I'm gonna miss you, little one. Got it! I think.
I thought you didn't believe in fate. We are all worried about your son. We need...
Enough! Heimdall's a threat, not only to Atreus, but to everyone. He's Odin's left hand, and he carries the horde that begins Ragnarok. If we have the chance to eliminate him, we
And
should...
it's just as likely a trap because the bastard knows your intentions. Kratos, I've never seen anyone so much as lay a finger on him. Not one.
Well, I gathered what's fit for gathering.
How long will it take?
We'll have to go to Svartalfheim to get the rest of the materials. Not to mention we'll have to visit the lady. Oh. Oh. Whew, that's a relief. Ow. Kratos, whenever you're ready.
The lady?
No idea what he's on about, brother.
I wish you'd come with us, Tyr.
I know you mean well with that. But, to be honest, I don't like who I became on our last adventure. I can't be around the violence that follows him. That follows you both. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's consistent. He's been pretty clear. He's anti-violence. So I do give Tyr credit for being clear with his boundaries. This is what I was talking about with what Freya and Mimir are perfectly capable of doing. Like, if he says, I don't agree with the warpath that you guys are on, and I don't agree with the violence that follows you around, so I'm not going to go with you, that's his right. I don't have any problem with Tyr exerting that boundary. I think it's okay for him to say, I'm going to stay here. I mean, it's consistent. Here's the thing, is like, I'm all for people injecting well-rounded viewpoints into these conversations about what to do here. Like, I don't think it's a terrible thing that Tyr is suggesting that violence against Heimdall is bad. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, why, what, you're just going to go kill Heimdall and expect that everybody's going to be cool with it? That's not a bad perspective for him to have. I don't like that the dissonance leads to it doesn't lead to conversations about how Atreus might actually be handling this, or how do we gather more information. But I think the best thing you can do is make as informed of a choice as possible. And I do think that Tyr, Brock, and Sindri are really helpful to an extent because they're outside the sphere of Kratos, Mimir, and Freya. So they do provide a fresh take. So even though Tyr is a bit antagonistic from Kratos' perspective here, I don't think that what he has to offer here is necessarily bad. They don't have to give up just because Tyr suggests that they shouldn't go fight him. But they could certainly take it into advisement. He's going to ruin his back chopping food like that. Yeah, and of course, yeah, so that's a good point, Dante, is like the thing about Freya is her entire conviction is to want to take it to Odin. Understandably so. Like see, the energy that she was experiencing in grief of her son, she was directing toward Kratos. And when her and Kratos resolved that, it's not like that energy just disappears. It's got to go somewhere. Well, the accountability, as we talked about way back then, is to go toward Odin. So if she's making decisions that are in the direction of trying to spite Odin, cool. I do think that is a bit of a dangerous proposition, though, just because of how powerful Odin is. Like I will say, one of the things that scares me so much about this entire thing is that we are going after Odin. And I don't know about all of you, but I have a deep amount of respect for just how powerful, manipulative, and controlling Odin actually is, of people who are incredibly powerful. Look no farther than Thor. Like, Odin literally has Thor under his thumb because of emotional manipulation. That's pretty wild. So, like, the dude is a force to be reckoned with. So him hanging over this, like, anytime you're making reckless reactions to Odin, he's winning, because he's probably expected that you're going to react in the way that you're going to react. And having Heimdall at his side gives him that much more power to figure that all out. So while I admire that she's trying to take accountability where it is, going up against Odin here is terrifying. And it may lead to rash decision-making on her part as it relates to supporting this plan. Because if Kratos wasn't listening to what the Norns said and didn't hear intent, and Freya is so wrapped up in her stuff that she also didn't hear it, I really believe that Freya is the only person right now to Kratos who could look at him and say, hey, Kratos, hand on the shoulder, just as a heads up, they said that Heimdall intends to kill Atreus, not that he will. What does that mean for us and for you? Like, she could draw from some of her own experience, but I think to an extent, because she just wants to stick it to Odin so bad, and because she's so rocked by what the Norns said to her, she also misheard what they had to say. Which is going to bring me to a point that I should have made in the last episode, and so I'm going to make it now. What the hell? Which is, when your amygdala fires in your brain, and your prefrontal cortex becomes less accessible to you, or not accessible at all. Your prefrontal cortex, the thing in the front of your brain, the thing that humans have that others don't have, is the thing that synthesizes language, creates symbols. It is what makes the human experience more complex than other animals. Well, when that goes offline because your nervous system is firing and because your reptilian brain is firing, unfortunately, one of the things that it shuts off is your ability to synthesize auditory information properly, specifically language. So there is a biological explanation to an extent for why nobody in that room seems to have heard the word intent, which is that they were already emotional. They were frustrated that their language was being said by the one Norn as they were saying it. They had already been rocked to the core in those caves when we had to go through those visions. So they're already heightened. And so at that point, you're so wrapped up in your body's emotional response that your ability to synthesize the information that's coming at you incredibly fast and incredibly complexly goes offline. This is why, as a couples therapist, something that I try to help people understand is that when you get into an argument and you get into that emotional, physiologically aroused state, Your ability to actually hear what the other person is saying and synthesize that in any meaningful way goes completely offline. You need to take time away so that you can re-engage yourself into that conversation in a meaningful way, or you need to be mindful of the way in which your physiological experience is going to hurt your ability to listen so that you can direct your focus properly. Unfortunately, I wasn't there physically with Kratos and Freya and everybody to have that little conversation with them before they walked into the spaghetti temple, so they didn't hear it. But it's something that all of us have to contend with as biological beings. Literally why I have to stop myself from responding to people when I'm upset. I know my brain isn't working full power. Yep, exactly.
I'm only just realizing all the little routines I've had to adopt taking care of Dropnir. I'll miss melting rings down for crafting gold, but I suppose we have enough to see us through to Ragnarok. Too soon?
Nah. Humor's a great coping strategy, Sindri. All right. Let's go.
See you out there. Ah, time to go see the lady. I'll take it from here.
Oh, no. This whole thing were my idea. I'll speak to the lady. I never get to speak to the lady.
There are reasons for that.
Brock will go.
What? No. I have
You
to.
heard him. Quit your fretting. I ain't gonna mess nothing up. What the? No, you pimpin' shrimps. Think that'll keep us out? Well, think the fuck again.
I don't know why Kratos chose Brock. The only way we would ever know is if we could ask him. If I had to guess, it may be because Sindri is more nuanced than Brock and is a bit more willing to stand up to Kratos. And Brock, I think, is a little bit more willing to take Kratos as he is. So this is part of that confirmation bias conversation we had earlier, where I think Kratos is more interested in surrounding himself by people who are less likely to question his decision-making on the matter. And Brock, I think, is far less interested than Sindri is in that endeavor. I also think because Brock said, I have an idea for how to help you kill Heimdall, and really didn't hesitate, then so be it, right? Like, I'm going to bring Brock because he hasn't shown any resistance to my directive here. That's my hypothesis. I mean, you could potentially say that it's punishment for Sindri getting close to Atreus and causing issues there, but I don't know that Kratos has as much insight into that for that to be salient to him right now. I really think that it's mostly about Kratos wanting to surround himself with people who confirm his objective rather than sow dissonance. I thought using humor was a bad way to cope. No, not at all. Humor can be a fantastic way to cope, so long as you're not ignoring the issue via humor. There's a difference between humor as avoidance versus humor as coping. It also is very contextually loaded. Like, you got to make sure you're using humor to cope with stuff in the right context and with the right relationships, because it's not going to necessarily work for everyone. But no, humor can be a really wonderful coping strategy, depending on how you use it.
What was all that then?
Oh, just Sindri trying to hog all the glory. Same old shit.
Not that. The gate. What's wrong with a bloody gate?
Most likely someone in Nidavellir been making a fuckery of the works. Probably on account of all that incursioning you got up to. But don't worry, you little dangling head. Old Brock came prepared. I got ways in and out from the old days Gates said never even think to look for, on account of being stupid.
Good to know. I just went the long way. Which is a good opportunity for me to say thanks for being here, YouTube and Twitch. If you're here live with me on Twitch, thanks for keeping me company and for asking cool questions and engaging with me. And those of you that watch this on YouTube, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day, whenever it is, to watch these. I really appreciate your support. It means a lot. Again, please share it if you haven't already, because it really does help.
Brock, where are we?
This here's your stop. Abandoned service tunnel, direct to the forge camp. I'll meet you up there. Go on.
Brock,
And he's gone. You sure he was the right pick for this, brother?
I trust him. He speaks plain.
And yet so colorfully.
There you go. There's your answer. Makes even more, I mean, it makes sense.
Unusual purpose here. Elvish, I think.
Why is this here? Man, this is cool. I can't get over the amount of detail in all the environments in this game. Absolutely wild. Red barrel means splody. It's gotta, right?
So, a tunnel for liquor and explosives. Little on the nose for dwarven culture, isn't it?
Ridiculing a culture you helped undermine. Classic Aesir.
Oh, all right. Might have earned that one.
Orion, thank you very much for the Prime sub. Damn, Freya not holding back there. Ooh. What's going on here?
Poor bugger. Why would he hide in here?
He feared something in these tunnels more than he feared starving.
Hardly seems rational.
Fear seldom is.
Sure it is. You kidding me? What Kratos just said... Okay. What Kratos just said is the exact logic that goes into why a person would experience fear. Like, this whole idea that emotions aren't logical is one of the great, like, misinterpretations of emotion that there is in real life, let alone in this game. Fear, like, Kratos saying something in these tunnels was worse for this guy than starving is probably exactly correct. And his fear of whatever that thing is likely contextually loaded and built from learned experience. Like, we fear things because we want to survive, and fear evokes a physiological response that leads to us doing something, even if that means hiding in a tunnel and starving. So, like, it makes sense, which is why it is always responsible to first acknowledge and validate one's emotional experience before you do anything else, because to challenge it as irrational is never going to work. Emotions exist, whether it makes sense why they're there or not, but there is likely a very real reason for the fact that it's there, and it's worth acknowledging that reason so that we can learn to work with it. So like Kratos was spot on and then completely undermined himself. Like fear seldom does make sense. No, it does. It makes complete sense, dude. You're afraid right now. You're afraid of the fact that your son is maybe either going to make a rash decision, be controlled by Odin, or whatever else. It's a legitimate reason to be afraid because your son's powerful and because you might lose him. What up?
On your right! Well, I can see why it's an abandoned service tunnel. Careful, brother. That looks flammable.
Oh, yeah? What if I set it on fire? Oh, that would have been a cool way to kill that thing. I want to know why those are down here.
Another oil spill.
There. We keep cooperating, maybe someday it'll be Asgard in flames.
That is not my goal.
Doesn't mean it's not your destiny.
What are you insinuating, Highness?
Not a thing.
Boy, the Norns really got to her. I really think she's rattled in a way she wasn't expecting. That vision, that like conversation with Baldur, the thing is like that was grief that didn't happen on her terms. And I think it really rattled her cage. And I think that she okay, so we're gonna go a step down because this is what we do here. I don't know that this is something that she is actively attending to, but it would make a lot of sense to me if it's sitting in her subconscious, which is how painful it will be to see if Kratos actually manages to save his son. Because it will be a reminder to her that she didn't. Like, I really think that some of that transference is playing out here. I think Freya wants Kratos to be successful. I think she wants Atreus to be safe. But I also think it's impossible for her to get away from the fact that watching Kratos buck prophecy and save his son and live happily ever after is so painful because she didn't get to have that experience. And not only that, but Kratos is literally the person that fulfilled the prophecy of Baldur getting his ass whooped. Like literally the guy who killed her son gets to save his son and live on happily ever after. There's probably some deep down, dark, vindictive part of her that actually wants Kratos to fail this so that he can feel what she felt. I think in some ways that would be vindication for her. I don't think if she actually engages with who she is that that's what she wants, but it wouldn't surprise me if that part's down in there. But this is what makes these types of circumstances with multiple people involved so complex and interesting, because everybody has their own shit that they're trying to work through and process and advocate for and move through. And when we see things with similar bones that have the opportunity for different outcomes, when we had an outcome we didn't like, that can create some resentment and some frustration. So I think not only is Freya rattled from what the Norns said to her and showed her, I think she's rattled by the fact that they're going on the very mission that she failed to complete when she went on it for her son. And that's real. And I think she gets to have that, but she has to be careful with how she interacts with Kratos, because if she creates this oppositional force, that's not going to be good. So I'm going to let it slide.
A fortuitous oil spill.
Yeah, if it wasn't there, I don't know what we would have done, man. Is it fair to say that for Freya, saving Atreus is secondary to killing Odin? I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Coming at you!
Poison, right side!
The Alpha!
Kratos? Kratos! Please listen. You have to let me take Brock's place. He can't talk to the lady. He mustn't.
No. Do not ask again.
But... oh dear.
I bet it has something to do with the fact that he didn't restore all the parts of Brock's soul, and Brock doesn't know that, and the lady knows that, or something like that. But here's the thing. Sindri, you've got to say why. It blows my mind how few people in this game have come around to realizing that if you just say it clear, concisely, and directly to Kratos, he will appreciate it. That is how to engage with him. Sindri gets so up in his head and gets so complicated with everything that he loses Kratos, which is why Kratos is resistant to bringing him along. If Sindri shows up and goes, look, Kratos, here's the deal. You can't take Brock. I messed up. I only restored 3 of the 4 parts of his soul. The lady knows that. Brock doesn't know it. I can explain more later. It's going to create a whole bunch of problems. You need to take me instead of Brock. Boom. But yeah, he's so wrapped up in his own shame around that. He's so afraid of what it will mean. He doesn't know what that means for Brock. He already lost Atreus. Brock's his closest confidant and his brother. Like, there's so much going on here that he's overcomplicating it for himself. But he has to be clear. He has to cut through all of that and know what his audience is and engage with his audience in the way that they need to be engaged with in order to do the thing that he's requesting. If he's going to go to Kratos, he has to go with what Kratos responds to. And that is clear, direct, and concise. He's got to be forthcoming about this, or else Kratos is going to bail. And he's going to say, no, get out of here. Like, say more, Sindri. Shame is not a good enough reason to be a shitty communicator. In fact, it often impedes conversations and communication that could be incredibly helpful.
It's not his fault Atreus ran off, you know. Or are you just being Brock's champion?
There it is again. You're insinuating and you know it.
Can't the smartest man alive put it together? The giants conceal a mysterious figure who changes the fate of Ragnarok, and you're oblivious to the only rational candidate. The one who's fought wars against gods and won.
I am not their champion.
Well, we're each entitled to our opinion.
He didn't deny it. He didn't say that's not the reason. Freya does have to, I think, tread carefully here. Mimir is correct. She is insinuating a lot here. And insinuation and assumption is often a fast track to disconnection. If she has a point, she needs to say what the point is. If her point is, Kratos, I think that Sindri is the better option here. And I say this because I also have Atreus' interests in heart and I want to support you in figuring that out. That lands a lot different than insinuating that he's a champion for the dwarves. And being like Kratos does not do well with that. He doesn't respond well to passive aggressiveness, to small print, to reading between the lines. Like, you've got to be clear with him. He can feel that something's up with Freya. So can Mimir. But having her in this oppositional space to Kratos and Mimir here is not helpful. It's bad. Like, we need to sit down for a second and say, Freya, what's up? This, like, you seem like you're dealing with some shit right now and it's affecting the way that you're interacting with me. So, like, what's up? I can hear it. And speak plain, please, because I'm having a hard time interpreting what it is that you're trying to say to me. I get it, and also, like, this is not a time for this kind of shit. You do nothing but shoot yourself in the foot, chat, when you get all vague and passive. Like, if you've got some shit to say, you gotta learn to just say it and let people respond to it. Oh. It's possible, Ryan, but we don't know for sure. It's impossible to know for sure whether that's the case. But it's I think, a valid hypothesis. You're on fire, Kratos. It'll pass. Oh, jeez. I just have to reassert dominance and show them how strong I am. Oh, that's pretty badass. Fog of Thimble. Yeah, we'll go with that. In Atreus' position, knowing a crucial secret about somebody, is it right to keep the secrecy that Sindri swore him to, or reveal what happened to Brock? I mean, he's not in a position to reveal it, so I don't know that it matters. I think it's one of those things where you have to make a judgment call based on the survivability and the context that you're in. If it's not relevant to have that information out there for your survival or for your mission, then I think you probably hold on to it and you keep the confidence. But if you reach a point where that information is absolutely necessary to make a better decision about what to do going forward, maybe you break the confidence, but it's a judgment call. On a lighter note, do you think a t-shirt for this round would be That's Fimble? I don't know. The rocket launcher, I think, is probably... I actually already have an idea for that, Skog, so I may do that. on the last point with the if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all kindergarten rule. I don't like that rule. Sometimes you have to deliver feedback to people that's not fun to hear. And sometimes you have to say things that aren't nice. I think the idea that you should always only say nice things is, it's kiddie shit. Like, be an adult. You can take feedback. You can hear criticism. Like, I don't think you should be an asshole, but I also don't think you should only ever say nice things.
These gates seem to be connected. See if you can break that far fixture.
Oh, here we go again.
The sigil arrows should work with ice as well.
Oh, that's clever. They put the clever. Okay. So yep, that's kind of where I'm at with it, Skog. Oh, I know what to do. This actually isn't too bad. Call this back. And then we go like this.
It's open.
Is it? That's good. Whoa!
Well, that was a bloody heartier sort of grim. These won't be easy tunnels for the dwarves to take back.
Not really worried about that right now, Mimir.
We'll need to get one of those gates open.
All right. Well, we got all sorts of cool waterworks to do here, so
We've seen these troughs before, haven't we, brother?
yeah, we have, brother. Don't tell me what to do, or your boy's gonna get real pissed. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me that
worked. Shall we?
We shall, but I want to see. I want to go through here too. Maybe we just have to do that later.
This opinion of yours, was that the reason you proposed this alliance? You expect me to lead your armies at Ragnarok? That is Tyr's job, not mine.
It's plain to see Tyr's no war god anymore.
Nor am I. I have left that life behind.
Not killing gods, you haven't. Or else what are we doing in this realm? Forging this weapon? Your choice. You know where it might lead.
I am only protecting
I know. I know. And we both know the places protecting your child can take you.
All right, we're getting better. Getting better. I want to go back here, though. Yeah, I mean, so it makes sense, right? She empathizes with this. She wants Odin dead, so... I don't think there's no water in here. Game's fantastic, Spectrumite. Just taking inventory real quick. Looks like, I mean, there's got to be something up there that I'm missing. So, all right, we'll go through here. Ooh, that was hard. Oh. Why do people tend to dance around a topic instead of being direct about what they mean? Frequently, it's because people worry that if they say something that is difficult or upsetting, that it's going to lead to like conflict, or that people won't like them, or I mean there's any number of reasons why folks don't do it, but usually it's due to a sense of conflict avoidance, without realizing that actually one of the best ways to avoid conflict is to get it all on the table and get your intentions clear to people. But it can be projection. I mean, it can be any number of things why they do it. But it's difficult to give people direct feedback because oftentimes we don't want to upset people. We worry about what it'll mean if we upset people. Also, speaking directly has a tendency to activate people to do things, and sometimes that feels a little bit weird for us as well. I mean, there's any number of reasons. But if you ask a person who tends to not speak very clearly or plainly why they do that, they will often give you an answer. It's usually learned, too. That you learn that people won't respond well if you do X thing.
By nightmares. They'll be even more dangerous until we stun them.
Oh, well, that's a yikes.
Atreus' mother was a giant, isn't that right?
She was one of the Jotnar.
Yes. I didn't mean she was tall as a house. I know not all giants are giant.
Not that there's anything wrong with the disparity in size, or number of limbs, say.
Nothing in the world.
Not where I thought that conversation was going. we go. All right, here we go. Good.
There. Now we can open the other gate.
Okay.
Why is it you ask?
I was just thinking of how Odin antagonized the giants for generations. Nearly wiped them out of existence twice. Now you may have a role to play in stopping him once and for all. Don't you think it's possible that's what your wife would have wanted?
Do not presume to know what she wanted.
I'm not saying anything you haven't thought. Her secrets haunt every step of your path, wasn't it? Maybe if you talked about your doubts, they wouldn't explode when you talk to your son.
I do not doubt. She knows what I left behind. She would never have asked that of me.
Why would she need to ask? She saw your fate. 3 of Odin's kin dead because of the path she put you on. You don't think she knew exactly what it meant, sending you to Jotunheim?
This is mere conjecture, and probably quite enough of it, Highness. We're all making an effort to cooperate here, after all.
You're right. It's not for me to say.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I mean, Kratos said exactly what I would have said. It's like, don't step on that landmine, Freya. Don't step on that. Don't do that. Don't do that. What is fascinating to me about this point in the game is that everybody's, we'll call them covert objectives, are becoming overt passively through language, through doubts, through conversation initiation. Like, damn. You gotta be real careful using people who aren't around, let alone dead folks, to drive a point home. And the assumption of what a dead person or a person who's not around would have wanted is a real disservice, not only to the person that you're referencing, but also to the conversation you're having. Faye is irrelevant here in that regard. And Freya trying to make it almost as if she knows Faye and knows what she would have wanted. That's gross because it's Freya using her own assumptions and projections and agenda, really, to try to understand a person who Kratos is. You want to talk about vulnerability. It's about as vulnerable as Kratos gets when he thinks about Faye. That's a massive overstep. Massive overstep. And I really think this stems from the fact that Freya is truly wrestling with some demons right now. Like, she is really wrestling with the fact that she couldn't save her son. She's wrestling with the fact that, like, they get to exert some kind of influence. She's wrestling with the fact that Odin could very well overpower them in the same way that he overpowered her. I think that she is scared of Odin, understandably so, because he was incredibly abusive and got her to do and experience things that she probably never otherwise would have thought that she could do and experience. Odin looms large here. If any of the three people in this conversation are afraid of what it is that they have to confront here, that has to come out directly. Like, this entire stretch of the game, I think, is a real lesson in why it's so important to communicate as directly as possible about where you're coming from, what your ideas are, and where you're trying to go. Meta communication, which is communication about communication, would be incredibly helpful here. Because to go for that and to say, like, your wife would, is this what your wife would have wanted? You are going to lose Kratos 100% of the time. 100% of the time. It's just not the direction you want to go. In the same way that Kratos shouldn't say, well, what would Baldur have wanted? Like Baldur would have wanted you to X. People use the convictions of the dead sometimes to drive their own agenda. And if you do that, you really ought to stop, because it's going to disconnect you from the people around you. And it really offloads your own convictions and agenda into somebody who can't stand there and defend themselves and speak to their own convictions. Now, Mimir stepping in there. I'm iffy on it. Like, I still don't know, like, the extent to which Mimir tends to step in to try to disperse tension. They're having a conversation they need to have. It's not clean, it's not perfect, but they're having a conversation they need to have. And Mimir dropping in here and saying, that's quite enough of that, Your Highness. We're all just trying to cooperate here, is deflecting from very real dynamics and content that is preventing them from connecting and collaborating. Like, literally, sometimes the path to collaboration is airing your grievances and getting your differences on the table so that you can settle them and then go and collaborate. If you're going to try to stop this kind of tension and meaningful communication from happening, even if Freya's missing the mark here, you gotta let it play out. You have to let Freya and Kratos go where they're going to go with this. If it starts to get to a point where it's unproductive, then perhaps Mimir steps in and says, guys, maybe we should cool it and have this conversation once our heads level out a little bit. That I could get on board with. But him injecting himself into that conversation, it's just really hard for me to support that decision, because these kinds of conversations have to happen. Conflict is not bad. Conflict is useful when people know how to navigate it effectively. Resolution of conflict, in fact, is one of the most powerful tools of connection and collaboration. That's a skill. It's a skill that people have to learn. And you see it all the time where people get so averse to the tension and the conflict that's happening that they would rather bail out or interject rather than let it go and play out in a way that it needs to play out, which would be so much more productive. So I think if I had to take a side here, it would be for Mimir to shut up again, because he's triangulating himself into a conversation to disperse tension that actually could be really meaningful and help them come together and move forward. Freya saying, you're right, I shouldn't make that assumption, is great, but it doesn't help. It's fine, but it would be more meaningful if she came to that conclusion through talking to Kratos, not because Mimir stepped in. Stay out of shit that doesn't affect you. Kratos doesn't butt in when Mimir's trying to talk to Freya about Sigrun. Like, you don't need to do that. Man, this shit's so good. So good. So good! Slate Punch, thank you for the 7 months. Holy hell.
All right, let's get that wheel turning.
Oh. Okay.
Just out of place.
Let me know if I can help with that.
That's a start. Ah, teamwork.
Is there any point where you've been repeating yourself? I mean, there's always going to be points where I repeat myself. But non-judgmental repetition is a great way to help people learn.
bugger. There's two of them. And they're angry. Behind you! Look out! You're on fire, Kratos. Double fire.
Oops.
Well, who's ready for some fresh air after that? Everyone? Thought so.
It is close. I can feel it.
All right, so Mimir butting in is infuriating, but you love it because it's realistic of how people avoid conflict, IRL. Correct. I do not expect perfection out of Kratos, Freya, or Mimir, or anybody in this game. It does. It provides a great opportunity for me to illustrate the way that people actually behave, and it gives me a chance to discuss why engaging in that way is not necessarily helpful in achieving what you're trying to achieve interactionally. So yes, I mean, I don't want a game where everything people do is perfect. I want a game where we can legitimately talk about ways people mess up. Come on out. Oh. Oh, well, that works too. Whew.
Look, I wasn't trying to provoke you or cast doubt on your marriage. It just seems to me your thoughts haven't caught up to your instincts yet. And I know something about that.
Keep going. Keep going. That's wonderful. I hope she keeps going. I realize that sometimes the game mechanic is what stops them from continuing to go, but man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. That's beautiful. So this is what happens when the intensity of the emotion comes down. You can re-engage a bit with your prefrontal cortex. It's a perfect opportunity to own up to the effect that you may have had previously. Like, this is big time stuff. For her to say, look, okay, I get how that came across. That was not my intention, but she acknowledges the impact first. What I'm trying to say is that I know I've had an experience similar to this, and it didn't go well for me. And what she's probably going to say at some point is, I'm worried about the direction you're going, and I'm worried that it's going to end up having Atreus killed or you killed in the same way that it did for me, and it's hard for me to separate my experience from what we're doing here. That's a totally meaningful conversation for them to have. It allows her to take accountability for what it is that she is bringing to the engagement. It's all really good. And it allows Kratos to soften a bit because he sees that she's owning up to the impact that she had. She's talking about her intention. He can then say, can you tell me a little bit more about that? I would appreciate if you opened up more, because when you're talking to me in the way that you have been, it's hard for me to understand where you're coming from because I get defensive. So it's really great that she could lean in and make that acknowledgement without it being prompted from Kratos of being like, I expect an apology first. Like, she just realized, you know what, the impact I had there based on feedback I read from that previous conversation suggests that I probably need to soften and own up to what I brought to that, because she did indeed, she instigated that conversation. Kratos didn't. So it's on her to take responsibility for it and own up to it. And she did, and that's awesome. We can all learn from that.
When we get out of here, I'll give you some space. Let you think carefully about whether you're ready for what it means to make this weapon and to use it.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'll see what else I can learn while we're here. Maybe I'll send a few Einherjar back to Valhalla for good measure.
Well, you have fun now.
Hey, you made it. About time. I got everything all set here. Now we just gotta push on up to the fort.
Falky!
Oh, cool. So, and I love how the dead... Huh. Is this where I think it is?
Long as you know that ain't the way to the forge.
Oh, I know, but I want to come over here because... there's stuff over here. Oh. Ah. Dude, these moving ones. Oh. Woo! Maybe Kratos will get hired as the quarterback for the Ravens. How well he's tossing these throws to the Ravens. You know what I mean? Like Ravens and throwing and quarterbacks.
Why do I feel like this has your name on it?
Because it does. Hey, another one of these guys. Oh, what do I do with this? Oh, yeah.
It is an ingredient from the recipe. How did they reach this realm?
Oh, they were well versed in realm travel. You see, Yari was raised a Midgardian warrior. Meant to fight in the family's wars, find a wife, die for glory. But he rejected it. He left.
He followed his own path.
I wouldn't be surprised if we found their mark in other realms as well.
More soup.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but could we just come back to this one? Trust me.
Dante, you gotta be careful, dude. I do not want to time you out or ban, but if you're not more careful... I didn't read what you said, but... you need to exercise more caution, man. I will not hesitate to kick you out if you keep doing that.
You sure did go to pains coming here, busting old Tyr loose. What a prize he turned out to be, huh? Lucid enough when it's time to steal my kitchen, though.
It's true.
Well, so much for following me. Fine. Let's see what you find. Hey, try sticking your hand in that thing.
I intend to. Oh god. Oh, no way. Ooh. Ah. Oh boy. God damn it, dude. She does it every time as soon as I start in it. God damn. Stuck on the rocks.
You likes it loud.
There we go.
Show me what you got.
Show me what you got.
You got just what you asked for that time. You bludgered this up too?
I'll have you know that was bludgered when we found it.
Sure it
Sure it was. You know, just gotta.
better take out that nest or it'll be eyeball city
Oh boy. Oh god, sorry, Brock.
These mutts. No wonder they shut the
Oh, it's this thing. No, young. It's considered backseating. Thank you for asking. All right.
Hang on. Almost got it. There. Well, come on in, stranger.
Never do get used to that trick.
Locals up ahead. Act civilized and hopefully nobody springs an alarm.
And we will find the forge in part 22. It's a good place for me to stop for the evening. So I appreciate so much that all of you are willing to watch this playthrough and that you made it to the end. Please leave a like, please leave a comment, follow the other links in the description. If you're binging, I'll see you in town in part 22. If you're waiting for the next one to come out, I'll get it out as soon as I can. I am so grateful for all of your support. Thank you for all that you do. Those of you that support the stream or the YouTube channel financially, I also just want to give you a special shout out as well. Thank you for being members. Also, thanks for purchasing merch and all that fun stuff. I am very grateful for all of you. I'll see you in the next one.